Ondo State, a land where rainforest meets savanna, where undulating hills crown the earth and cradle old settlement. Rivers carve valleys through time, and the Atlantic whispers opportunity along its southern shores. Here, geography is not just landscape, it is destiny. Geographically, the state lies roughly between latitudes 5 degrees 45 minutes and 8 degrees 15 minutes north, and longitudes 4 degrees 20 minutes and 6 degrees 5 minutes east, stretching from forested highlands in the north to mangrove swamps and coastal plains in the south. Bounded by Ekiti and Kogi to the north, Edo and Delta to the east, Ogun and Osun to the west, and the Atlantic Ocean to the south. Ondo State occupies a strategic ecological and economic position in Nigeria's southwest. Ondo State is predominantly Yoruba, with major subgroups including Akoko, Akure, Ondo, Owo, Idore, Ikale, Ilaje, and Eseodo, while Yoruba remains the dominant language. Dialects vary widely, reflecting deep historical roots. Traditionally, the people are known for agriculture, especially cocoa cultivation, alongside fishing in the riverine areas, craftsmanship, trade, and public service, a diversity of livelihoods shaped by geography, culture, and access to land and water. The people of Ondo State are known for their resilience and hard work, shaped by generations of agricultural enterprise. They value education as a pathway to progress, producing disciplined and enterprising citizens. Equally defining is their firm resolve, a determination to overcome challenges and build enduring communities.
Some of the best brains that Nigeria has produced, a lot of them have contributed to the economic development of this country. You can't write the economic history of Ondo State, of Nigeria, without mentioning our people.
You know that Ondo State have produced what so many states have never been able to produce so far. And in the history of Nigeria, since 1999, in the, should I call it, democratically elected government, Ondo State happens to be the first state to produce the young ministers so far. And that tells you that the affirmation given to us as a sunshine state is not just a statement of doubt or a statement of what people say. So for me, Ondo State is a Chinese state.
I've grown through along with Ondo State. Ondo State afforded me the education that I had that brought me to the point of being a senior advocate of Nigeria. And you can imagine somebody starting from Iyasan, one of the remotest parts of Ondo State, and coming up to become a senior advocate of Nigeria. Ondo State afforded me all of that opportunity. So to me, Ondo State at 50 is a celebration to the state as a corporate body, and it's a celebration to myself as somebody, as a beneficiary of what Ondo State has offered over the years.
Rich in fertile soil, dense forests, bitumen deposits, crude oil, limestone, granite, silica, and vast waterways. Before 1976, there was no Ondo State. This land formed a significant part of the old Western region, administered from Ibadan, a region that once stood as the heartbeat of progressive governance in Nigeria. At the time, Nigeria had only 12 states, created in 1967. Ondo territory existed within the then western state, later split into Oyo, Ogun, and Ondo areas of provincial administration. Yet, distance bred discontent. The aspirations of Ondo people, cultural, economic, and political, increasingly felt submerged under regional centralization. From this sense of marginalization emerged agitation, deliberate, intellectual, and persistent voices, collectively known as Ondo Provincial Movement, agitating for the creation of Ondo State.
There was a move by leaders at that time. I was secretary that this area should be created as one state, and the demand was for the leaders, and they were all of the same mind. So it went on.
Well, before the real movement for the state creation started, around 73, 74, there were other movements that had actually asked for the creation of Ondo State. There was one spearheaded by the Minister for Information then, Lawyer Oluwakin Fusile. That was made up of mainly elders in the province there. They did the best they could, but it was not all embracing. There was yet another where Papa Nyajashi and Chief R. Refasharati served as chairman and secretary. That too was not all embracing, but toward the same purpose, creation of Ondo State.
Agitation alone did not birth Ondo State. In the Nigeria of the 1970s, the demand for new state had gained national prominence and momentum driven by questions of balance, equity, and effective governance.
By 73, there was a mass movement spearheaded by Shivji B. Akiyede of blessed memory from ONDO, Ekiti. Known as provincial movement, ONDO provincial movement towards the state creation. And Shivji B. Akiyede served as the chairman of the movement. Late Barrister Deji Adegoroye of blessed memory as the secretary, and I had to serve as the publicity secretary. These are the three functional officers. Like I said, it was a mass movement, embracing the former groups that wanted the state created, and others. And the venue we used was the commercial school in Akure, the one on the way to Idori, secondary commercial secondary school. The first meeting really took place sometime in 73, and there before we got to the meeting, notice had gone around that every division, it was called a division then. We had 9 divisions making the province. 5 in the present ONDO state, remaining 4 in the present Ekiti state. So every division was represented by 10 accredited members, 10, altogether making 90.
By 1900, after we call it the fall of Nigeria, Nigeria fell to the colonial administration in 1900. Nigeria was administered through, there was a southern, northern, and colony of Lagos. Colony of Lagos was merged with southern protectorate in 1906. There and then amalgamation took place. After constitutional development of the Europeans, regional system of administration was put in place. There was Western region, Eastern region, and Northern region. By 1963, Midwestern region was carved out. At that particular point in time, this provincial system was already in place. And Akure was the provincial headquarters of ONDO province, which comprises both old and both the old ONDO state. So by 1976, by 1967, that's 3 regions also balkanized into 12 states by Yakubu Gowon at the early stage of Nigerian civil war, just to allay the fear of the minority and to douse tension. In 1976, that 12 was increased to 19. ONDO state happened to be one of the newly created states. I can mention Imo, I can mention Niger, I can mention Ogun state at that particular point.
In response to the various agitations by concerned individuals, the federal military government not only did not initiate a nationwide review of Nigeria's political structure, but committees were constituted, memoranda were submitted, delegations appeared before national panels articulating historical claims, administrative logic, and the aspiration of distinct peoples. The panel was chaired by Justice Ayo Irekefe, a respected jurist whose leadership lent credibility, balance, and institutional weight to the process.
What really happened was that General Gowon created 12 states. There had always been agitation that the 3 regions were imbalanced. And what happened before the era of the military was that Midwest was created out of the Western region. And if I remember correctly, that was the only region or the only state, or it was region then, that was really created by civilian administration. But that did not satisfy the Nigerian cry for creation of new states, particularly among the minority groups, both in the south and in the north. Then, of course, the problem, or should I put it, the crisis that emanated from the first coup also hastened the idea of creating more states. So, ONDO State, if I can put it that way, is a child of cry for more states in the country, and with the Rikefe panel recommendation, which was made into law under Murtala administration, we went as far at that time as we believe we should go.
In 1976, the federal government set up the Rikefe panel to advise the government on the creation of additional states. And the panel recommended that the then ONDO state, ONDO province, to become ONDO state. There was no addition to the ONDO province or subtraction from it. The same province was renamed ONDO state. But
Leaders from the Ondo area presented their case, rooted in geography, population spread, cultural identity, and the challenge of distant administration from Ibadan. These submissions were not emotional appeals, but structured arguments aligned with Nigeria's broader reforms agenda.
We presented a petition first to Gawan. Yes, Gawan. But Gawan missed the opportunity of giving us the state until Murtala got there. So this petition was signed by 75 of us, demanding the state creation. It's entitled a case for the creation of Ondo State. This is the blueprint, and it was signed by 75 of us. So it was the lot of Murtala to create the state.
After extensive consultations and careful evaluations, the Murtala-led federal government accepted the necessity of creating new states as instruments of national stability and development in line with the recommendations of the Rikefe-led panel. It was within this framework of national reform, not regional sentiment alone, that the case for Ondo State gained formal approval. On February 3rd, 1976, Ondo State was formally proclaimed alongside 5 other states by General Murtala Ramat Mohammed.
ìpínlẹ̀ Ondo, ìpínlẹ̀ tó ṣe é mú yangàn. Mo pè é.
10 days later, February 13, 1976 precisely, Nigeria stood at a crossroad. General Murtala Ramat Mohammed, whose administration had initiated sweeping national reforms, including the restructuring of Nigeria's federation, was assassinated in an attempted coup. The nation was thrown into shock, but the reform agenda did not collapse. In the aftermath, the responsibility of leadership fell on the shoulders of his deputy, Lieutenant General Olusegun Obasanjo. Obasanjo chose continuity over reversal Rather than abandon the reform process begun by Murtala Muhammad, he carried it forward, including the recommendations on the creation of new states. It was under this burden of national uncertainty and with deliberate resolves that the decisions leading to the creation of Ondo State were executed.
At the federal level, one thing is to decree, another thing is to the implementation. And at the implementation level, I must say that the civil servants were very, very helpful. They really were at every level and in every state. Quickly, they sorted out who should move to which state, and then we appointed military administrators who moved in quickly, and then so the civil servant helped us a lot, and I would say at level of every state, the assistance we got from the civil servants was tremendous, and that really helped.
Credit goes to the visionary founding fathers whose tireless advocacy, strategic foresight, and unwavering commitment ensured that the aspirations of the people were realized.
It is a compelling moment that reminds us of the struggles of the past, the sacrifices of our past leaders and our heroes, and the resilience of our people, the people of Ondo State. In celebrating this significant milestone, I pay glowing tributes to all the founding fathers and former governors of our great state who have contributed immensely to our growth and development. Their selfless service, vision, and leadership have laid the groundwork for the progress we all are enjoying today.
The task of laying the foundation of the new state fell first to Wing Commander Ita David Ukpeme, who governed from 1976 to 1978. His administration focused on structure, creating ministries, defining administrative boundaries, and giving the young state its first bureaucratic spine.
Ondo State aware, especially to see what we have to ground. Akure was a small town at that time, a small provincial town. The only official offices that we had was the provincial headquarters office. And with the sort of movement we had to take people from the Ibadan to there, it became very difficult to find where we would, first of all, have offices, lodge people. So we had to convert the garages, any little place we saw, into offices. And then, what accommodation, moving all the workers from Ibadan and where there were no houses. So, what we did was, I told the indigenous, the office of workers that some of you live around towns and villages around Akure. Why don't you stay in your family houses and come to work? Because Akure happened to be so strategically located that Akure-Ekiti, Ikere-Ekiti, or War had Idore. Then you had Ondo. All those places were almost equidistant from the center, which is Akure. So I thought that probably that was why they made a choice of Akure, the state capital at that time. I think those who had that foresight did a good job.
He was succeeded by Colonel Sunday Tuoyo, who governed from 1978 to 1979. Tuoyo's role was transitional but critical, preparing Ondo State for a historic shift from military command to civilian leadership. For the first time, Ondo State stood on the threshold of democratic self-rule. In 1979, democracy returned to Nigeria and Ondo State elected its first civilian governor, Chief Michael Adekunle Ajashin. Ajashin's administration became synonymous with free education, a bold policy that opened classrooms to thousands of children and permanently altered the social landscape of the state.
And the free education too. Many women, some had 7, 8. Just send your children to school, whether they are in uniform or they are not in uniform. You don't even have to buy books. I dare say that when we were driven away, I felt sorry for those who supplied books for the schools, because there was no way they were to be paid. And so they went away with loss. And, but at the end of the day, many people were educated.
Education was seen not as privilege, but as a right, and Ondo State became a national reference point. Yet, the period was not without strain. Ondo State's economy had been anchored in cocoa, a crop that linked its forest to global trade and sustained household across generations. As Nigeria entered the oil era, Ondo's geographic proximity to the Niger Delta and its shared boundaries with oil-producing states positioned it within the emerging hydrocarbon corridor, raising early expectations of petroleum-linked growth and future resource participation. It was against this economic backdrop, agriculture as foundation, energy as possibility, that Ondo State turned deliberately towards industrialization. During Ajashin's tenure, the state laid early industrial pillars with initiatives such as Oluwa Glass, Ifon Ceramics and others, designed to convert local raw materials into value-added production and employment.
In my own case, the projects that I had, Oluwa Glass, Ifon Ceramics, Irebon Bricks, they were all awarded by the military before we came. But they didn't put money. So the option that our government had was that do we terminate this contract? And I advised that we should not terminate them, because not just because they were in my ministry, but if we terminated them, we will never be in a position to restart them. One, we were in UPN, we were not in the federal government, what was it? And if you're going to go abroad to go and borrow money, you will be backed by the federal government. Since we were not part of the federal government, what has been approved, let us take cover and carry on with what we had. And so we carried on with what the military had approved. Even in the agricultural area, they were all involved. In cocoa industries, they were all involved. And I think the people who came in with one mind that we are not going to be left into this poverty, we are going to really get our people out of it.
Political rivalry intensified, economic pressure mounted, and by 1983, the electoral process collapsed into violence, leaving scars that would outlive the republic itself. The post-election violence of 1983 marked a turning point. It exposed the fragility of democratic institutions and the dangers of contested mandates.
The best period we have had has been 1979-83. If that has been allowed to continue, I don't know, ONDO would not have been, we have surpassed where we are today. Although there were problems later when Amabolo wanted to be governor and decamped to MPN, and the people said no, and the election was rigged, and he was to be made governor. And people protested.
there was bloodshed, burning of houses and all this. So at the end of the day, the Supreme Court gave the verdict back to Papa Yashi before the coup came.
The issue of 83 episode, I pray to God that it never come again. We don't pray for it. And we are struggling. Those of us who were alive at that time and who are still alive now, make sure we use experience to caution the youth and the current politicians who are ambitious to be this, to be that, to be very, very careful and not to over stampede the governor or the leadership to do anything that is disastrous. We are using to make sure that things come. We don't want a situation where the cause trouble and all those things. We don't want that in all those states. We thank God that our leaders here are cautious and they build their experience on the sources of their previous leaders to make sure that anything precarious should not come back to Ondo State.
In its aftermath, civilian rule fell once again, and Ondo State returned to military administration on December 31, 1983. Commodore Michael Bamidele Oteko governed briefly from 1984 to 1985, focusing on restoring order after political breakdown. It was followed by Captain Michael Okai Akigbe, whose tenure from 1985 to 1986 coincided with a broader national realignment under a new military leadership. Ekundayo Bamidele Opaleye ruled from 1986 to 1987, overseeing continuity rather than reform, maintaining governance while democracy remained suspended. At some point during the Babangida era, the language of governance began to shift from permanent military rule to managed political transition. It was succeeded by Navy Captain Bodi George from 1988 to 1990, under whose watch Ondo State navigated federal government structural adjustment program SAP and cautious political reopening.
I was here. We fought to get Ondo back into the oil-producing state. Remember, it was a very serious political issue because the oil vendor heads into our own oil fields.
From 1919 to 1992, Abiodun Olukoya served as administrator, guiding the state through the final stretch of the military-designed transition programs.
As a state that is ready to do greater things, to reach for greater heights, a giant in its own right, a state that I was looking at, if well tended and careful, could lay golden use.
Political activities resumed. Parties emerged by decree, yet the memories of 1983 kept expectations in check. In 1992, Ondo State once again elected a civilian governor, Chief Bamidele Olumilua. His victory symbolized hope, a belief that lessons had been learned and that democracy could return without chaos. But the Third Republic was fragile. Before reforms could mature, before institutions could stabilize, the experiment was cut short. In 1993, Nigeria and Ondo State again slipped back into military rule, closing another chapter. The collapse of the Third Republic in 1993, after the annulment of the June 12 presidential election, while seen as free and fair, was not just a national setback. It was a personal disappointment for Ondo State. Having tasted calm civilian governance under Chief Bamidele Olumilua, the return of military rule felt like history repeating itself.
play very major role. We play crucial roles at every level. We were one of the, ONDO State was one of the biggest supporters of Abiola. You know, Papa Ajashi was still around, and he was leading the group. And as our national leader and state leader, we had no choice but to support him by every means that we had. All the meetings here, most of the meetings, let me put it that way, some were held in Lagos, but most of the meetings were held in over here. The plots were engineered here in Owo. But most of the leaders of June 12, I mean, once a month, or sometimes twice, they will come to Owo and meet with Papa and discuss all issues and steps to take.
The memory of the June 12 annulment resonated deeply. Democracy was no longer seen as abstract, but something denied. Mike Tory became the first administrator following the return of military rule between 1993 to 1994. His task was clear: maintain order, preserve institutions, and prevent political collapse. Progress was measured in stability, not development. He was succeeded by Ahmed Usman, who continued this stewardship from 1994 to 1996. Administrative continuity was maintained, but democratic processes remained suspended. Civic participation was limited, and political expression was monitored. Under the firm grip of Abacha's dictatorship, Ahmed Usman was succeeded by Anthony Oyarubulem. His administration managed a state under constraints, balancing the demands of a central military government with the patience and expectations of a populace that remembered Olumiluwa's civilian governance. By 1998, with the passing of General Sani Abacha and the appointment of Moses Fasoya as transitional administrator, Ondo State was prepared cautiously but deliberately for the return of democracy. Governance was no longer just about decree. It was about creating a bridge back to civilian rule. In 1999, after 16 years of continuous military rule, democracy returned to Nigeria, and with it, the Fourth Republic. Ondo State elected Chief Adebayo Adefarati as governor at a cautious transition from military rule. His administration focused on stabilizing governance, rebuilding public confidence, and restoring civilian institutions amid limited resources. A notable priority was staff welfare, with loan schemes that enable civil servants to own vehicles, enhancing mobility and dignity of service. During this period, national attention also turned to Ondo State vast bitumen deposits, regarded as among the largest in the world outside Canada. In 2003, power shifted to Dr. Olusegun Agagu. His tenure emphasized infrastructure development, roads, urban renewal, and public projects aimed at repositioning the state economically. The discovery and expansion of oil-producing states increased Ondo State's national relevance and fiscal profile. Yet, concerns over public finance, governance, transparency, and political tensions shaped public discourse. By 2009, the courts, not the ballot, became the final arbiter of political legitimacy as Dr. Olusegun Mimiko assumed office following a landmark judicial decision. His administration pursued a people-centered approach, investing in healthcare, education, urban renewal, and social welfare programs. Signature initiatives in maternal health and community-based development earned national and international recognition. However, fiscal pressure, rising debts, and political fragmentation remained enduring challenges. In 2017,
tackling poverty without making healthcare accessible, affordable, and acceptable for the people. So for me, it was a clear idea, and I knew that it had to be an incremental thing. And where do you start? The most vulnerable in society, pregnant women, children. And that if you could take care of the health needs of those two vulnerable groups, you take off the expenses from the household level on those, then there will be more resources to attend to address other needs of the household. Like I said, it was meant to be an incremental program. And I'd always told you that I also grew up within the Awolowo social democratic political ethos. So I know that education is the other leg of poverty alleviation, is the other leg of development, is the other leg to combat generational poverty. So accessibility to education, democratization of access by making it affordable was top in our program. But not only education, it has to be quality education. And that was why, having done our assessment of the whole educational landscape, we thought that we should start with the foundation. That was what gave back to the mega school concept. These are avant-garde facilities that will compete with any of the sorts anywhere. And there's no question about the fact that I knew from the beginning that these two, they are key. Let me congratulate you. Because these things are no coincidence. If God positions you to be the governor of a state at 50, it's a message. I keep saying that the God I serve is not a God of coincidence. He has a reason for putting a man whose name is Lucky, also as the one in charge when this nation is 50. And I have said it before publicly, and I'm saying it again. I congratulate him. But there's no question about the fact. Only a fool will not know that the hand of God is in the life of that man. Only a fool will not know. The trajectory of his political involvement and his engagement and his elevation, it is the hand and the work of God Almighty.
In 2017, Arakunrin Oluwarotimi Akeredolu became governor. His tenure was defined by assertiveness, particularly in matters of security, federal relations, and regional cooperation. As a leading voice in the establishment of Western Nigeria's security network agency Amotekun Corps, Akeredolu redefined sub-national security engagement in Nigeria's southwest.
Amotekun will not be a place for anybody to think you want to feather his own nest. You can't feather your own nest. You can't use Amotekun for political purposes. No, we will not allow it. It's not meant for politics. No governor will deploy Amotekun during any political activity.
Infrastructural development and institutional reforms continued, though political tensions and governance strain occasionally tested administrative cohesion. In 2023, its passing marked an unexpected transition. Following constitutional secession, Governor Lucky Orimisan Ayedatiwa assumed office at a defining moment, one that tested the strength of ONDO State democratic institutions and the continuity of governance. His emergence reaffirmed constitutional order, demonstrating how far ONDO State has progressed from interrupted republics to a system capable of managing transition without instability. Hence, on February 24, 2025, Governor Lucky Orimisan Ayedatiwa unveiled his administration's 7-point development agenda, aptly branded Our Ease. Drawn from the campaign mantra, O Datiwa, O Dirorun, meaning our ease, setting out the core priorities that now define the direction of governance in Ondo State.
From this day, our state will transit from the redeemed agenda of the last 4 years to a new development policy thrust, Odatiwa Odirorun, which was our electioneering campaign mantra to the people, and which literally translates to our ease. These 7-point pillars shall propel our development agenda for the next 4 years, as carefully designed to drive sustainable development and improve quality of life of our people.
The ongoing Deep Sea Port Initiative reflects an ambition to reposition Ondo State within regional and global trade networks, while ongoing bitumen exploration underscores the state's vast mineral endowment, together unlocking coastal opportunities, expanding industrial capacity, and strengthening logistics and value chain development.
In the next 4 years, we will work with interested investors and our development partners in ensuring that our Port Ondo becomes a reality. We will also facilitate investors to explore a large deposit of bitumen for local use and export purposes, thereby generating huge revenue for the state. This has been the vision and goals of our founding fathers, and we will bring them to reality in our time.
The administration also recognized the enduring role of traditional institutions in governance.
As traditional rulers, at least we have a befitting headquarters where you can call this Council of Oba Secretariats. So a lot of changes have happened in the last 50 years. Particularly, we have to give kudos, credits, accolades to the present governor, Honorable Dr. Lucky Urimiso Ayedatiwa.
Say we'll be rolling a lot of projects out for people to see. You will see something very soon now. So congratulations, and I wish you well, more year, more good things, because we are expecting good things in this day.
Under our able leader, Urimiso Ayedatiwa, the status of urbans in Ondo State have been remarkably elevated.
Beyond the state level, Ondo's progress has also been shaped by federal presence and collaboration, particularly in youth development and internal policy alignment. Through federal programs and partnerships, opportunities for skills acquisition, employment, and youth empowerment have been expanded, reinforcing Ondo State's role within the national development framework.
That the federal government has been doing and how we are stationed. And by now, I think in Ondo State now, we have the biggest screen that we want everybody to go and be looking at the federal government jobs, and even to go to their website and tell them that it's real. And I think Net Fund, I know we spoke about that, is going to Ondo State. We want a large number of them to register. And there's no how we will not partner with the subnational, because everything, the youth does not lie in the national, it lies in the state. So we must partner with the subnational. They must give us an open door so that a large numbers of young people will see a huge thing that the federal government is doing in youth cred, reforming the NYC, in Nigerian Youth Academy, in security exchange commissions, putting order to Ministry of Youth in youth health and how to think differently, and that's how youth development is very important. Even in the youth bank, for Ondo State, we will put it to them, and that is why we are taking the youth policy of the youth generally to fix it up and make sure that it works. And we have a lot of deals of GDEBs and all that we are doing with Nigerian youth. And the Nigerian Youth Help Desk, and what we are saying is that we are accessible now. The ministry is for the young people, so it's accessible, it's visible, and it's viable for every young people.
Of Ondo State today at the Federal Executive Council. One is the Minister of Youth Development, one is the Minister of Interior. These are senior ministers by every standard, and it's the first time in like 8 years that we'll be having a full minister, not a minister of state. Without, that's not being disrespectful, but I'm just saying what the president has done. And also, we have to look at our roads. I mentioned earlier, I was speaking about 3-4 massive road projects going on as we speak. These are multi-billion naira projects. Spoke about the what we call, I think it's about 4, because we have the Benin and Benin Osrc road, Benin Owa road. We have the Ado Akure road. We have the Elisha, to Akure road, and we have the Ore, So we have those are 4 for Ondo State to have those 4 massive projects not be easy. And also, I learned that of recent, I think there was renewal of the FBC certificate, for an approval for the seaports. That's a massive collaboration. It shows that the federal government is collaborating well. And of course, we must also look at the teaching hospital, which is the Federal University of Technology Akure. I know Ondo State has been on that for a while, but under this government, we've been able to get that. And of course, we must also understand the fact that most of our indigenes, for example, the DG of ITF today is from Ondo State, the MD of Bank of Industry is from Ondo State, Bank of Agric is from Ondo State, and a couple of so many great appointments, that has come to the Sunshine State. And of course, the ED projects, of the Southwest Development Commission, not to talk of members of the commission, and even the ED Corporate Services NDDC, from Ondo. So this government has extended hands to our sons and daughters, and also giving us infrastructural uplift. So for me, both in terms of infrastructural, human capital, and socio-economic development, I don't think we've ever had it this good from any government from Ondo State. So for me, I think we need hope has found a place, in our space, and we can realistically be grateful to Mr. President, for the development.
However, the people of Ondo State want more. Yet, as Ondo State looks forward, one critical question remains unresolved: the fate of moribund industrial assets scattered across the state. Abandoned factories stand as silent reminders of sunk public investment, lost jobs, and unrealized in ICT and tourism, in energy and the blue economy. It is a question of memory, of responsibility, of the future we choose to build. The land has given enough, and the rest is up to us.
Mo kíra fún ọ ìpínlẹ̀ Ondo, ìpínlẹ̀ tó ṣe é mú yàn.